And that is my part on the Ministry of Sport.
Honourable members, the speaking time of the Honourable Member for Laventille East Morvant has expired.
Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to beg you to please kindly extend the speaking time of the Honourable Member for Laventille East Morvant by a further 30 minutes, please.
Honourable members, the question is that the speaking time of the Honourable Member for Laventille East Morvant be extended by 30 minutes. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. The speaking time of the Honourable Member for Laventille East Morvant is extended by 30 minutes. You may continue, Honourable Member.
A special thank you to the Minister of Sport for extending my time and to my other colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I move to the flying squad. I would like to know the status of the investigation. Mr. Speaker, the new Minister of National Security needs to tell this nation if this unit existed or not. This unit, which came into existence around last year, June 2012, initially met at a National Security building, Matco building in Port of Spain, and that's the same building that recently there was an evacuation of police officers, and it's also the same building that the CAPA, the Crime Analysis Unit of the Police Service, is housed. Mr. Speaker, from my recollection, every time a person goes into a national security building, a register, they have to sign in and so on. I'd like to know where this register is, because there is, that should be proof that they have been meeting at that building before they move to the east. Mr. Speaker, I have a list of members of the new flying squad where they sign their names, addresses, telephone numbers. Where is that list? In their own handwriting, Mr. Speaker. Each of them signed their name, number, and this is when they gathered to meet. Okay? And we are hearing that this squad did not exist. So, Mr. Speaker, I just really would like to know. No, it just has the name, address, contact numbers, basically. All right? Mr. Speaker, I mentioned before that the new flying squad members, they were on a helicopter, a national security helicopter called Viper 2. And the names of the pilots, Buddy and James. Mr. Speaker, I think we have more than enough information for the police who are investigating and the Police Complaints Authority to continue this investigation, because the public would like to know the status of this whole scenario with its flying. Mr. Speaker, I have the information also concerning when they went on surveillance with the National Security helicopter. This was done on October the 9th, 2012, where they found marijuana fields. Okay, and so if the new flying squad does not exist, then what were they doing on National Security helicopter? Because there's a process. I mean, any and everybody cannot go on a National Security helicopter. Okay, they must have proper clearance and authorization. All right, Mr. Speaker, they went to Matilot, Grand Riviere, Transouci. These are the areas that they saw marijuana fields. I can give you the latitude and longitude of some of these fields, the areas where they covered. For example, in Transouci, longitude 10 by 9 by 61 north, latitude 61 by 2 by 4 west. They went Kumana, they found one field in Belandra. Toko, there were 4 fields, longitude 10 by 49 by 65 north, and latitude 60 by 58 by 45 west. Montevideo, 3 fields. Mr. Speaker, I was informed that this information was submitted to the then Minister of National Security, who also claims not to know anything about the existence of this unit. But I have brought this, if you check, I wouldn't read it, but October the 26th Newsday, the headline, Cops Destroy 150 million in ganja in the East. It's the same information that was provided by the new flying squad. It's the same marijuana fields, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, even after the exercise, I understand Mr. Hira from the National Security Operations Center called the members of the new flying squad and personally thanked them for bringing this information to them. Mr. Speaker, I ask the government again to come clean with this new flying squad story, because precious police time is being wasted by conducting investigations, and they know what is happening, himself investigating himself. And Mr. Speaker, I call on the new Minister of National Security not to sweep this under the carpet. He said he has an open door policy. Well, I would like him to receive the Police Complaints Authority, which has suddenly gone quiet on this matter. They're still in the process of investigating this new flying squad, Mr. Speaker. Why I asked is because I haven't seen any allocation in the budget for their pay, because they have been clamoring for their pay. I got a letter from one of the persons who was supposed to be involved in the new flying squad, and as a matter of fact, there were 3 policemen, active policemen on active duty, who were attached to this new flying squad because they would go out with them or have meetings with them when they were off duty. The 2 of these officers are now facing disciplinary charges. They have transferred them and taken away their firearms. So if this unit did not exist, then why are the policemen who were attached to the new flying squad, why are they being victimized if the unit was not in existence? So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to find out what is happening. I haven't seen any head or subhead. I'd like to know where this new flying squad, where the money will be coming from to pay them, because the people of Trinidad and Tobago are anxiously awaiting the outcome of this investigation, and hopefully we should get that soon from the Police Complaints Authority. Mr. Speaker, under the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Head 64, 02-00122, short-term employment. Why are sought officers on short-term employment? I'd like to speak on behalf of the sought officers. Many of these officers are ex-policemen and members of the Defense Force who resigned from their jobs and joined SOT, and they were made Special Reserve policemen. Mr. Speaker, many of the officers are owed money by this government, and they left their jobs and went straight into SOT without taking their leave, and they were promised payment for all their leaves. This has not materialized to date. Mr. Speaker, many of them are still waiting on their ex gratia payments, and these officers were promised the same salary that they were receiving in SOT, as they are now working alongside police officers, mainly in high-risk areas. And those who are attached to gang unit, the air operations, and SIA have been receiving their same salaries, but those who are on the beat, the police officers, are receiving half the salary. And their salaries, of course, was cut in half. And to top this off, they are not entitled to overtime because they now have to come back in the service as Special Reserve officers. Okay, so some of them were sitting, were soldiers, some were police. They now, in order to operate, have to come back in as Special Reserve officers. And Mr. Speaker, why is the government taking advantage of these sort officers? Many of them cannot afford to make ends meet because of the cut in their salaries and no overtime. I would like the minister to explain the government's position on this, because many of them have families to take care of, and this behavior seems to be vindictive, Mr. Speaker. And I cannot not remind the government about the important role SOT played in the fight against crime. This agency raised the bar for professional law enforcement in Trinidad and Tobago, and the officers, therefore, must be treated fairly. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk a little about the Defense Force. You know, instead of the government coming here to bring a bill to make soldiers police, it is time that they complete the amendments to the Defense Force Act, which is long overdue. Mr. Speaker, since the PNM administration work was being done on the Defense Act, Justice Cross was one of the persons who made inputs into this amendment. As a matter of fact, someone came on the other side and mentioned Justice Cross' name during that debate. Mr. Speaker, amendment to this act should seek to give the military more independent powers so that they can complement crime-fighting initiatives. The reality of the situation is that many persons don't trust the police, and there are places that soldiers could go that police cannot go, and that is a fact. And if, as the government says, that they are using a multi-pronged approach to fighting crime, then I suggest that they do it the right way and amend the Defense Act. Mr. Speaker, in the budgetary allocation to the Defence Force, I see 52 million has been provided for the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard to improve infrastructure and purchase vessels for maritime surveillance and control. It will be remiss of me not to mention the cancellation of the OPVs here, which would have greatly assisted in stemming the flow of guns and drugs into our country. Border security, Mr. Speaker, is a key component of national security. Mr. Speaker, the Coast Guard is in urgent need of vessels. In last year's budget, the Minister spoke about the commencement of a new naval operations plan to combat the drug trade. I would like to know what is the status of this, because I haven't heard anything about it so far. Mr. Speaker, I spoke to some of members of the Defence Force who live in my constituency, and they stated that they are in need of vessels. Not vessels, they are in need of, besides vessels, vehicles also. They are also in need of vehicles. The Captain, Minister of National Security, must therefore ensure that the Defence Force acquires specialized military vehicles so that they can be more efficient in their operations. And Mr. Speaker, as I talk about vessels and vehicles, I must mention the dismantling of two important departments in the Ministry of National Security, the Strategic Project Management Office and DEFTIS, better known as the Defense Transformation and Integration Secretariat. The Strategic Project Management Office was responsible for high-level projects in the Ministry of National Security, which included procurement of the interceptor vessels, bases to be put around Trinidad and Tobago, human resources for major program management, helicopters, contract administration, the 360-degree radar, synergy between the agencies, the projects in Australia, United Kingdom, component parts of all projects, ensuring synergy from all the projects, and the police communication systems. And these are just some of the areas that they were involved in. And Mr. Speaker, there are exorbitant sums of money to be spent on equipment, vessels, helicopters, etc. within the national security sector. The government, in its lack of wisdom, dismantled this office where individuals had the expertise to ensure proper procurement procedures to ensure that the right equipment is bought and the right personnel were hired and that the proper contractual arrangements were made. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of National Security does not have the competence to manage major programs and projects for the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force and the national security sector on a whole. Yet, this important office was dismantled. The Defense Transformation and Integration Secretariat was overseeing the Strategic Project Management Office and was responsible for the transformation of the Ministry of National Security in general. And this unit was also dismantled. They cannot be serious, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am informed that the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force is in need of personnel. Why not accelerate the recruitment process? This government has so much grandiose plans for the soldiers who don't receive overtime, but are expected to work alongside police officers who do. At least they should seek to increase the strength so that they can continue to function more efficiently and effectively and have an opportunity for a more balanced and improved quality of life. Mr. Speaker, one of the areas that need to be addressed is that members of the Defence Force can leave the service from as early as the age of 45. This can be addressed in the Defence Act. They should be given the option of remaining longer in the Defence Force. A 45-year-old person, Mr. Speaker, is young and can still contribute a lot in the service. Their experience and expertise is needed. So I ask the new 5-star General, Minister of National Security, to look into this.